Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Uncle Matt's Cookery Lessons. A little midweek bonus video here. I'm going to make with some leftovers. A duck boulangère. Sounds fancy. In my last video, I roasted a whole duck and it was gorgeous. I had some of the duck left over, we didn't eat all of it, and the carcass, and on the carcass there was still some meat. So what I have done is I have picked off all the meat, I have collected all the bones left over, I'm going to make a stock with them, and I'm going to recreate a kind of made up dish, but it's based on the French Boulangère potatoes, which is potatoes, onion and chicken stock usually. So this one is going to be with duck, meat and duck stock as well, and I imagine it's going to be extremely lovely. Anyway, I'm going to crack on with it now. Alright, so I'm just going to take my time here. I'm going to try to get every single little bit of meat I can find left from the carcass, a lot of it around the back, under the wings. Just take your time, get every single scrap, and I also happen to have a drumstick and a thigh left over, which I picked as well. And now for the stock, I'm going to need what we call mirepoix, which is basically a fancy name for some stock vegetables. Carrot, onion and celery. Leek would be great, some garlic. Just roughly dice that up. It doesn't really matter how you do it because it's just for flavour into the stock. And yeah, there's some bay leaf and rosemary went in. In the pot it goes. Now, along with the vegetables, and I'm going to cover that with water. I'm going to say about an hour, maybe a bit more of simmering, and if it starts running a bit low, just top it up with cold water each time. I found my mandolin in the last video. It was missing, so I found it ready. And I'm just showing you, I'm going with a really nice thin slice. If you have one of these, great, be very careful, otherwise you'll end up with short fingers. And you're going to use the guard. When you get close there, that's when you stop, get the guard. And just backwards and forwards. And just keep going until all your spuds are done. Obviously I will put the recipe for this on my website, but it is quite a basic recipe. It's not exact, it's just sort of some of this and some of that, but basically onions, potatoes and stock usually. I'm just rinsing and refreshing the water because it was getting a bit starchy, and I'll leave those potatoes soaking until we're ready to build. So here's the other onion I had, which was a white one. Those cores, they're going in the stock. And a slicing with the grain, reasonably thin. Again, just keeping the sizes, the thickness of the slices even. There you go, once that's all done, we're nearly there. This is really quite easy to do. I use a conical strainer and then a fine mesh sieve or chinois to pass out all the bits from the stock, and it's a bit of a cloudy looking stock. I had it boiling quite fast. There's the skin in there. I wasn't putting too much finesse into a really clear stock there because it's going to go in with the potatoes, but it's got the duck flavour, which is important. So I'm using a nice non-stick pan, but you can just use any old dish that will go in an oven to do this, and you can be as fussy as I'm being, or you can be a little bit more cavalier and just chuck the stuff in and mix it around, cover it with stock, and it will also be lovely. But I wanted to sort of see those layers in there, and I wanted the video to look really nice. So I'm taking my time, putting my slices of potato, overlapping, sprinkling with some seasoning, and then picking up some of the duck and the shredded duck with my hands there and just sort of evenly distributing it. And you've got to eyeball this. You know, you've got a bowl full of duck, you've got a bowl full of onions, you've got a bowl full of potatoes. You just sort of got to look at it and go, yeah, that's about right. And if when you're doing your layers it looks like you've got a bit more of one than another, just start using a bit more of that. You know, it's quite easy really. And here you can see the layers are going up, another bit of seasoning. If I'd have had some thyme, that would have been very nice, or some parsley would have gone in there. And there you go. I just chopped up the duck because the last time it felt a bit awkward trying to tear it up, so just chopped it up quickly with a knife. You can see what I'm doing, and you can see how easy this is, but you can also see how lovely it looks. So there you go. there's more onions and more potatoes, and so on and so on, and we'll speed that right up because it's going to get a bit boring. You don't want to watch me doing this for hours. And there we go. So a boulangerie in France, it's like a baker's shop really, and before the times everybody had ovens, the local housewives would go to the boulangerie after it was closed and it turned off its ovens, but it still had the residual heat, and they would have their dishes of onions and potatoes and stock ready, and they'd all go and use the boulangerie's ovens to finish their dinner for their menfolk. That's a very nice idea, but now everybody's got ovens. Most people have. Sorry if you don't. I didn't have one for nearly 8 weeks. Very frustrating. So there you can see me pouring my stock over, and again, it's not all carefully measured, but you want to, once it's done, you want to sort of be able to press it down and sort of see the juice. You can see it under the surface there, you know, or even just coming over. It's very similar to making the classic dauphinoise, but you'll live longer if you have Boulangère potatoes more often than dauphinoise potatoes. There you go. You don't really get health advice from this channel because I'm not the healthiest chap ever, but you know, these are very nice and very tasty. What I'm doing here is I'm creating a little disc of parchment paper to sit upon the potatoes while they're baking, because I don't want them to colour too much early on, because I want to make sure they cook through. So that's a technique. You put the middle to the centre of the dish and then you open it up, and there you go, you have a disc. And then I'm going to cover that with a bit of foil, tin foil or aluminium foil, or if you want to be American about it, aluminum foil. And I'm going to put that on a tray, and it's going to go in the oven. There's the temperature of the oven. Put it on a tray because I want to keep my nice new oven as clean as possible for as long as possible. And that's after, there you go, 45 minutes or so. Looking quite nice, but not ready yet. So what we're going to do here is we're going to test it. You can still see it's quite juicy. The potatoes haven't absorbed all that juice yet, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a baste, like so. And then I'm going to give it a bit more cooking without the cover to allow the colour to get on the top after I've had a baste. And we're just testing. It's sort of nearly cooked, those potatoes, but they're a little bit more resistance there. And as if by magic, there it is. 25 minutes later or so, looking absolutely fabulous. Now what you could do at this stage is just pop that on the table, let everybody dive in. But I thought, no, what I want to do is I want to see if I can form this into something a bit more dense, where I can cut a wedge. So this is a day later. That's been in the fridge. It's really set, and the stock has carried on absorbing into the potatoes whilst it was cooling down. And I was thinking, I do hope this works. And this video is going to look a bit weird if it's if you don't understand why I've got this messy wedge of potatoes. But obviously, you're watching this video, you can probably tell it did work out. So I've cut a nice slice there. Get your palette knife underneath. I've put my oven on quite high now to reheat this, and there, just showing you there, you can see those lovely layers of potatoes and duck and onions. Whack that back in until it's basically hot all the way through. Got a beautiful deep golden brown colour all over it, and just to annoy everyone, I thought, well, let's serve it on a plate, not on a plate, sorry, on a wooden board, because who does that? It's annoying, isn't it? And there's some of that red cabbage still left over, and I'm going to hand you back over to me. Alright, so a very simple little dish to do, but and using leftovers, something which I've done a bit of lately actually. So see how it tastes. First of all, I'm extremely happy with the way that it has looked. That was a slight gamble, letting it press in the fridge and then hoping after I cut it and reheated it wouldn't just, you know, fall apart, but it hasn't. Excellent. How does it taste? It's quite difficult to get onto my fork. Oh my god. It's lovely. If you've had Boulangère potatoes before, obviously it's a really simple thing, but the combination of onions and potatoes with some stock is such a winner. And with the addition of the duck, and obviously being duck stock, yes, very happy with this. I'm going to try it with some of the red cabbage. that's great. What better a way to use up some leftover duck and duck carcass than to create just a spectacular little simple but gorgeous little dish, perfect for a lunch. Thank you ever so much for watching. If you like what you see, why don't you subscribe and like and comment and things like that. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, and I will catch you in the next video. Come real soon. Bye.